As an inciting incident to get the ball rolling on a recall of the mayor, the Penguin has his gang start a crime spree. During it, one of Batman's batarangs gets taken by a poodle.
Curse you, poodle! I'm adding you to my list of enemies, right alongside One-Face and Rock and Roll!
Amusingly, one of the bits a lot of people like to bring up with this movie, attaching some dynamite to a strongman, doesn't actually happen here. Instead, there's a clown with some dynamite, Batman knocks him out, and he tosses the dynamite into a sewer, raining feces and other fluids right out onto the street. 'Tis the season! He comes across the Penguin near the crime scene, and they trade banter until we get the revised version of Catwoman's introduction to the two. In the movie, we saw her doing a lot of stuff inside of one of Shrek's department stores before she flipped over to them, but here, it's just the flip over the course of 4 panels, she meows, and then the explosion. Credit where it's due, that's a great way to adapt this bit. The Penguin flies away on an umbrella helicopter. Where the hell did he get that? And Batman chases after Catwoman. There's more banter, some that may have been progressive at the time, but I don't think has aged that well. But the end result is Batman getting stabbed by some claws, and Catwoman drops down into a truck transporting sand. The next day, Penguin formally announces his run for mayor.
That's right, Oswald Cobblepot, the mystery man-beast romancing Gotham, is making a bid to run Gotham.
Well, now we know why Batman hates him so much. If All-Star Batman and Robin is anything to go by, Batman wants to romance Gotham. Catwoman stops by to see the Penguin. We need to talk. You see, we've got something in common.
Wait, don't tell me. Naked, sexual charisma.
This is somebody's fetish. No, she's talking about Batman. He says not to worry, that he has plans to turn the Batmobile into an explosive that'll kill him, but she thinks he'd just be a martyr, a symbol to rally around. No, to destroy Batman, we must first turn him into what he hates most, namely, us. So as I said earlier, the 3 villains are supposed to be dark mirrors of Batman. Shrek is the most obvious. He's a rich guy beloved by the city, but instead of using money and power to help people, he wants to exploit people. Catwoman is the dual personalities of the costumed character versus the person behind the mask, psychologically damaged and lashing out against wrongdoers, just more destructively. And the Penguin is a man who lost his parents, but instead of using that loss to fuel a desire to do right, he embraces his worst impulses and happily considers himself a freak, separated from humanity. So if we go by the idea that the villains are what he hates most, what Batman hates is himself. All the darker parts of his own nature that drove people away and leave him feeling empty. A stretch? Possibly, but we still have Batman Forever to look at, and as that movie said,
it just raises too many questions.
Okay, admittedly, the clip makes it sound like it's rejecting my analysis, but still, questions are raised. To further weaken the story, the 2 other scenes of Bruce and Selina meeting and dating have been cut, with the dialogue about Vicky Vale being driven away excised. But of course, it's not just about plot details like that, but about the character emotions. Selina looking into a glass reflection and asking herself, why are you doing this? The 2 making out on the couch because they both feel they found a kindred soul before trying to hide the scars the other inflicted on them, afraid of revealing too much. But no! Let's keep in the completely unresolved and kind of nonsensical subplot about framing Batman for kidnapping the Ice Princess, some kind of famous model or whatever, with the only circumstantial evidence being the batarang that the poodle stole earlier. And while Bats works on getting the kidnapping victim freed, the rest of the Red Triangle gang work to deconstruct the Batmobile and install a remote control system in it. I guess I just never realized how versatile circus clowns are at engineering, computers, electronics, and car repair. Oh yeah, I know you are, but come on! Catwoman arrives and takes the Ice Princess up to the roof of the building she was held in, but the Penguin is already there, unleashing some bats around her while she's standing on the edge. She falls off as Batman tries to save her, but of course to the public below, it looks like he pushed her. It's not helped when she lands right in front of the Christmas tree in the plaza, which sends out a swarm of bats into the crowd. The cops very quickly reach the roof and shoot at him before Commissioner Gordon can get them to stop. Batman falls off and onto a balcony, where Catwoman is yet again waiting for him. She makes out with him since, you know, she's kind of messed up.
A kiss under the mistletoe? Mistletoe could be deadly if you eat it.
Well, there go my plans for mistletoe-flavored candy bars.
But a kiss can be even deadlier.
If you mean it. I mean, maybe if you had a really bad case of mono. You're the second man who killed me this week. I've got 7 lives left. I'm hoping to regenerate into Jodie Whittaker next time. Batman pushes her away, and he unveils that he apparently decided to equip his glider wings. Or is he always wearing those? Anyway, he does not help his case of not being the one responsible for the murder, and he decides to glide down in the middle of them right over the crowd until he returns to the Batmobile in the alley. Catwoman meets up with the Penguin, who wants to bang her, but she of course isn't interested. And like some particularly egregious examples of toxic masculinity, he accuses her of sending out all the signals, and then tries to murder her. You know the date is going badly when Thanos was doing a better job of courting someone. He hooks her with his umbrella copter and sends her into the air. She finally breaks free of it and falls down into a greenhouse, where once again the art fails what the movie accomplished very well. Here, she just falls unconscious and her costume is perfectly intact. In the movie, throughout her time as Catwoman, the costume becomes more and more damaged, reflecting her growing trauma and increasingly fragile mental state, reflected further by her screaming and the glass around her shattering. Or, you know, just sexily unconscious. That works too. The Penguin returns to his mayoral trailer and activates the remote control, allowing him to drive the Batmobile around, trying to run people over and cause a bunch of mayhem. The comic omits that he does this in a tiny Batmobile quarter-slot ride. You gotta admit, I played this stinking city like a harp from hell, and I'm playing Nickelback on it! Batman manages to regain control of the Batmobile, but he's being chased by the police. To escape them, he initiates a system that ejects most of the outer casing of the Batmobile so that it's small enough to fit into a narrow alley, allowing him to elude the cops. So Batman just made sure there would always be the option to slim the Batmobile down like this.
Alfred, I need to be prepared for the possibility that I need to squeeze in between cars and traffic.
Master Wayne, that seems like a very odd feature to have.
Okay, fine. I just want a car that's in the shape of the one from Monopoly. You happy?
The next day, the Penguin makes a speech to an assembled crowd, but Bruce and Alfred are watching, somehow hacking into the sound system and playing a recording of the Penguin's taunting. The squealing, wretched pinhead puppets of Gotham! See, these days, that kind of talk would guarantee his election. Sadly, the comic does not feature the hilariously stupid moment of Bruce moving a CD around like a record to make it repeat. The crowd turns on the Penguin and pelts him with tomatoes and eggs that even he comments on, where did they get those? Until he fires an umbrella gun into the crowd and flees back to the same bridge his parents abandoned him at, symbolically returning to where he was at back then, embracing his monstrous nature. He orders the Red Triangle Gang to begin work on his real plan, the real reason he was in the Hall of Records, finding every firstborn son in Gotham City and tossing them into the water to their deaths just as he almost was. Unfortunately for the Penguin, the first ones he tried to do this on were the Gotham Middle School swim team. At the Batcave, Alfred reminds Bruce about Max Schreck's annual Christmas costume party. Bruce decides to go since Selina will be there, who of course he's only met the one time in the comic version. And who are you going as?
You'll never guess. I'm going as Val Kilmer.
No, of course, in one of the more less than subtle moments in this, both he and Selina go to the party without masks, because their civilian identities are their masks. Still, it does give us an iconic Christopher Walken moment.
You on?
Fortunately, despite cutting all the other scenes between the two, the comic does preserve probably my favorite scene in the movie, Bruce and Selina dancing and realizing who the other is. There's something beautifully tragic about it. The sadness, the confusion, the moment where it looks like they'll talk things out and start healing only for the Penguin to destroy that chance. The only difference between comic and movie is that last bit, where instead of Bruce suggesting they go off and talk, he suggests they just keep dancing until they figure it out, which honestly works just as well for me and conveys how sad it is. Just a fantastic scene. Anyway, then the Penguin shows up to monologue about his plan to everybody in his giant rubber ducky mobile. Oh, don't judge. You know you want to drive that thing around too. He's come to take Chip away from Max as his punishment for abandoning him at the press conference. But like I said, Max does love his son, so he volunteers to go in his place, convincing the Penguin to take him instead. Mind you, he probably should have waited to make this announcement, since they're still not done taking the kids by the time he returns with Max to his lair, which gives Batman ample time to rescue all the children. He does, however, send the gang's pet monkey back to inform the Penguin of what happened, leading our villain to his next insane scheme, arming his legion of penguins with missiles and directing them to just go into the middle of the city and blow it the hell up. At this point, my question is less where the tech came from, and more, how did he outfit that many penguins that quickly when so many of the Red Triangle gang just got taken by Batman? And so begins the March of the Penguins, minus Morgan Freeman, but the signal that our villain is using is traceable, so Batman is tracking it in the Batboat, or just one designed for sewers, I guess, back to his lair. Just like how they hacked the press conference, they're able to jam the Penguins' frequency, so they're not given the command to fire the missiles, instead sending them back where they came from. Let's dance, sir.
We can dance if we want to, Master Wayne.
Realizing what it means for the Penguins to be on their way back, the villains make a hasty retreat from the lair, while I continue to have to use those terms to describe the situation because we have literal actual penguins as well as a character named the Penguin. But Batman intercepts the Penguin. While the two fight, apparently Catwoman tracks Shrek here and comes to kill him. Also, her costume is suddenly coming apart despite being fine last time we saw it. I guess she tripped on something on the way over here. The Penguin is forced back down into the Arctic exhibit while his army launches the missiles, everything blowing the hell up around everybody. Max tries to thank Batman for saving him, but he's in no mood for his bull and says he's going to jail. Don't be naive, the law doesn't apply to people like him or us.
Wrong on both counts,
says the vigilante pursued by the police for the wanton destruction and murder that, admittedly, he was framed for, but still has made no effort to prove his innocence. In 2 movies, he'll be giving away diamonds at a date auction. The comic adds some stupid cat puns because the relationship between Selina and Bruce isn't as well established.
Why are you doing this? We should drop him off at jail and then go home together.
I'm not a house cat.
I won't declaw you. Just watch where you sharpen those things.
Tale as old as time, this romance. Batman convinces her they're both the same, split down the middle, and the two declare their love for one another, which would mean a lot if, again, they had shared more than 1 or 2 scenes together. Regardless, Catwoman is unable to live with this as Shrek pulls out a gun. Bruce doesn't take his mask off here like in the movie, but because Selina called him Bruce, he was able to put 2 and 2 together. And Bruce Wayne? Well, why are you dressed up like Batman? He is Batman, you moron. In that case, Bruce, I could really use Batman's endorsement for this power plant. He shoots the two, with Batman being knocked back, but Catwoman keeps standing, claiming she still has multiple lives left. At least until he runs out of bullets and she's down to 2. She pulls out the taser she didn't take in the comic as Bruce takes off the mask, allowing Selina to finally end him, and herself, by giving him a kiss and tasering the power generator Shrek is standing behind, electrocuting the two. The comic adds a bizarre shot where power goes out in the entire city, which was also apparently shining the bat signal. I guess the cops got over it quickly. Here, Bruce doesn't search the rubble for her and fails to find her. No, there's just smoldering bodies, and Selina is pretty clearly there too.
Selina Kyle. Nope, doesn't ring a bell at all.
The Penguin emerges from the water, but instead of looking barely alive like the movie, he seems fine. Until he just falls over dead again. The Penguins lead his body back to the water, and Bruce just stands there stoically, probably just as confused as I am about what just happened there. We cut to some time later, where Commissioner Gordon and the mayor are wondering if Batman will forgive them for what happened, although considering the facts as presented, I'm not sure what other conclusion could have been drawn, but the mayor just says he'll always help them regardless. Bruce and Alfred drive around, but instead of the snowfall in a deserted street, it's still a crowded public square.
I didn't find her.
Didn't find her? There were clearly 2 bodies smoldering there. Who did Max fall on top of? He thinks he sees Catwoman's silhouette against a wall and runs out to look, but it's only a black cat. Bruce takes the cat back to the car. Yes, well, come what may, Merry Christmas, Mr. Wayne.
Right, sure. Really like to kick a man when he's down, don't you, Alfred?
I much preferred Miss Vale, Master Wayne. This is all your fault. And so our comic ends with the two driving off. and missing the final shot of the movie where Catwoman's head comes up. Just as well, that was to set up a spin-off for her, and it's a good thing we don't have an adaptation of the Halle Berry Catwoman movie. Oh. Anyway, the movie is great, but this comic sucks. It hits all the major plot points, but none of the major character points. Gone is the complex relationships and development, and it's just the most superficial parts of it. The Penguin coming in, disrupting stuff, then going full supervillain. Say what you will about the movie, but it's dripping in atmosphere and mood. Sure, it's got nonsensical and goofy parts that may get you to scratch your head, but at least it's got an aesthetic. This comic is like an inferior TV edit of the movie, needing to cut the most interesting parts of it because we needed more commercials. The action set pieces aren't even that great in this, and the dark humor is mostly lost. The Penguin and Max Schreck remain mostly intact, but they're not as interesting as Catwoman is, who really got screwed over in this. The comic does have its moments where it's brilliant or well crafted, and the artwork is very good, I'll grant you that, but it's so much weaker than the film it's adapting, and that is a shame. Next time, we continue the holiday festivities with a follow-up to A Christmas Past, as we do another Yuletide adventure with the Punisher.
What is that supposed to hypnotize me?
No, just give you a splitting headache.
Happy birthday to me. Right back at ya. No, I'm not. I'm thinking of leaving in the morning. It's just Linkara. Am I wrong to still be angry at him? I'm also not sure if this is really what I want to be doing with my life. I'm only 5 years old, and yet I don't know if I even feel alive. I'm a foam toy brought to life by Dr. Lingsano. I don't know what normal is, and yet I'm surrounded by ghosts and gods and things I doubt I'd understand if I was flesh and blood anyway. Yes, and ninjas, but I don't know if I want to be part of this anymore. I don't know. Maybe I'm only staying because I don't know anywhere else. Thanks. Let me think it over. Why? Hello?